They buried her with their own hands. They sang over her coffin. They poured sand over her body. But months later, she returned from the grave carrying a child.
Her name was Chinyere. She was young, beautiful, and loved by all. On the day of her burial, the sky wept heavily, as though the heavens themselves were mourning her. Her husband Obina tore his clothes and rolled on the ground, screaming that he would never love another. The villagers pitied him, but some whispered,
How could such a vibrant woman die so suddenly? She was healthy just last week, strong, radiant. Her laughter filled the village. Then suddenly, she fell sick, and within days, she was gone. Some said poison. Some said it was envy. Others whispered it was the hand of the gods punishing her for a secret sin. No one knew for certain, but all agreed her death was not natural.
3 months later, strange things began to happen. At night, near the cemetery, people began to hear it, a cry, not of a grown woman, not of an animal, but of a baby. At first, the elders dismissed it. They said it was the cry of bats or night owls, but too many people heard it. Too many were afraid. Then, one night, a palm wine tapper, drunk but alert, staggered home from the bush. He dropped his calabash when he saw her, a woman in white, carrying a baby, walking away from the graveyard.
He swore before the entire village square, I saw her. I saw Chinyere. She was holding a child. The market fell silent. Even the women pounding yam froze mid-swing. The news spread like harmattan fire, and when Obina heard it, he nearly collapsed. He cursed the gossipers, shouting, My wife is dead and buried. Stop this madness. But deep inside, Obina's chest thundered, for he knew something no one else did. And then it happened. At dawn, Obina's gate opened. There she stood, barefoot, dusty, her wrapper torn, her face pale but alive, and in her arms, a crying infant. The villagers screamed and scattered. Women fainted. Men stumbled and ran. Children hid behind mortar and pestle. A ghost, they cried. A ghost has returned. But her eyes burned with life, not death. Obina froze where he stood. His legs trembled, his lips dry. He stared at the woman he had buried with his own hands. Chinyere, he whispered. The baby in her arms wailed sharply, cutting through the silence like a blade. And just like that, Umuaka village was never the same again.
They called the elders. They asked her, Chinyere, what happened? How are you alive? Her voice shook the night as she spoke. She said she had been buried alive, that her sickness was not death, but a deep sleep, a coma. That as the coffin closed, she felt the weight of soil pressing her chest. That she clawed, struggled, and broke free. But she did not return home. No. She said a woman in the forest, a strange woman who knew herbs and charms, found her, fed her, and cared for her. And in that woman's heart, she gave birth. The elders gasped. One asked sharply, Chinyere, if you are already pregnant before death, then whose child is this? She turned her eyes to Obina and said nothing. That silence was louder than thunder. That night, she confronted Obina. Her voice was ice. You know this child is not yours. Obina staggered back, sweat dripping. She leaned closer. You buried me too quickly because you feared this secret would come out. The truth spilled like palm wine on bare ground. Before her so-called death, Chinyere had been secretly in love with Ekene, Obina's younger brother. Their stolen glances had become stolen nights. Their whispers had grown into flames, and that child was Ekene's. Obina had suspected. But when she suddenly fell ill, he had looked away. He buried her swiftly, perhaps too swiftly, hoping to bury the shame as well. But now, the grave had rejected her, and she had returned, not for peace, but for war. The scandal burst open like rotten fruit. Ekene confessed with tears streaming down his face. Yes, he cried, I loved her. I loved my brother's wife. This child is mine. Their mother wailed and tore her wrapper, cursing her womb. Obina lunged at Ekene, fists flying. But Chinyere stepped in, clutching her baby. Hit him if you like, but the shame remains. You tried to bury me, Obina, but the earth refused. From that day, the brothers could not walk through the market with whispers trailing them. Children mocked them. Women gossiped until their throats went dry. Umuaka had a new tale to feast on, and everyone was hungry. Chinyere transformed. She was no longer the quiet, gentle wife. She was fire. She paraded the village boldly, daring anyone to call her a ghost. She demanded land from Obina, threatened him with charms, and laughed when he trembled in his sleep. And still, she met secretly with Ekene. Their love, born of betrayal, grew deeper despite the scandal. But Obina's rage, his rage burned hotter than firewood. One night, by the stream, it happened. Brothers clashed. Words became shouts. Shouts became fists. Fists became blood. Obina struck. Ekene fell, and the water carried his lifeless body. The next morning they found him, eyes wide, mouth open, staring at the sky. The villagers wept. The elders declared Obina guilty. He would face the gods. But Chinyere, oh Chinyere, she wailed, tore her wrapper, and rolled in the dust. Yet deep inside, a cold smile flickered. Years passed. The child, some took, grew. At just 5 years old, he stunned the entire village. Papa did not kill Uncle, he said one morning. Uncle slept. I saw it. The gods showed me. The elders stared in silence. The villagers shivered. How could a child know such things? Some too described the night of the fight in terrifying detail, words no child should ever know. Whispers began again. Was he just a child, or something more? Born in death, raised by scandal, protected by a mother who rose from the grave, perhaps he carried powers beyond the ordinary. On her final night, she returned to the graveyard with her son. Her voice was low, but it carried across the wind.
You rejected me once, but one day you will claim me again. Until then, let my enemies never know peace." The wind howled. Some swore they saw her fade into the shadows with the boy. She was gone, but never gone. Obina lived haunted, not by death, but by memory. And long after, mothers warned their children, "Never betray love, for the earth remembers. And beware the woman who returned from the grave with a child."